Oh, it's been said a bard's life can often be a hard life, or hill and jail to rove and always move from town to town. And some folk have inquired if ever we grow tired of ranging all around the world and never settling down.
But one should be a little wary of remaining stationary, 'cause comfortable is lovely, but it's not the way we grow. When life starts to unravel, pick up your pack and travel. You'll find a strange serenity in places you don't know. Wriggle-dee-dum-dee-too-da-terry-o-dee. There's so much to see beyond the open door. It's outward bound we go. Who knows what we'll find that we've never found before. Adventures waiting further down the road. It's waiting for you further down the road. You've got no map for showing which direction you are going.
But why start on a journey if you know where it will end?
And once you recognize,
to anticipate surprise, you'll relish every twist and turn that lies around the bend. Wriggle-dee-dum-dee-too-da-terry-o-dee-da-dee-da-dee. There's so much to see beyond the open door. It's outward bound we go. Who knows what we'll find that we've never found before. Adventures waiting further down the road. It's waiting for you further down the road.
the world has got its demons. There are many reasons why you'd find it harder to be brave than be afraid.
But every life could use some danger. Every friend was once a stranger. Ships are safe in harbor, but that's not why ships are made.
Wriggle-dee-dum-dee-too-da-terry-o-dee-da-dee. A fwit-da-dee-da-dee. There's so much to see beyond the open door. It's outward bound we go. Who knows what we'll find that we've never found before. Adventures waiting further down the road. It's waiting for you further down the road. Adventures waiting further down the road.
Let's go!
Hello, my friends. It is me, Madame Onça. Thanks so much for being here. It's our once a month talk about tarot, do tarot, chatty chat kind of show, and I'm here at your disposal. I'm going to just take a minute to wander through the comments here and see how folks are doing. Hello, BLC Blondie, Chinese Crest, Fantasy Palette. Ooh, Blondie's got new Jack Skellington cards. Solani just managed to get the old iPad to finally launch Twitch. Fantastic. Hey, Sir David Percival. Yes, thank you. You may notice Sir David Percival saying, glad that we made it back to where we could actually stream. If you were catching up with our family's adventures on social media, we actually were supposed to get back yesterday morning from the UK trip, and we just got back today. So I'm definitely, I'm jet lagged and loopy. It's sure to be a good time. Hey, Victoria. Hope you're doing great. So, how's everybody else out there? That's what I want to know. Hey. Oh, it's meta. I'm being filmed as I'm on film. Hey, Sally, how are you? Hope you guys are doing great. Allow me to mention that coming back here after being in the UK for 2 weeks, what a climatic shock that was. Stepping out of the incredibly hot and humid Charlotte airport at 1 a.m. I think it was midnight, maybe, coming from the UK where it was basically 60 degrees the whole time and we were by the sea. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying it was a shock to come back here and feel like I had been wrapped in a wet mop that had been used to clean a gym. That's what it felt like with the wet, hot humidity in the Charlotte airport. But I'm happy to say that we were rescued for a few hours by one of our own, Lady Prudence. Ooh, look who's over there. Proof that he also made it back from the UK. Wave to the people. Hello. Yeah, Lady Prudence came and rescued us, so we were actually able to get 3 hours of sleep before undertaking the last leg of our trip. Because like so many folks around the world, the drama with the, what is it, CrowdStrike? I don't know, the drama with software that grounded thousands of planes impacted us as well. Can't complain. We are back home safe and sound. Victoria says, hi, Paulo. And Sir David Percival, we actually didn't end up getting stuck in Philly, but thank you. We they changed all our flights, mucho delays. We ended up flying into Philly and then flying from Philly to Charlotte and then being told that we had basically 11 hours and no place to stay, no hotel or anything. 11 hours of wait before our next flight. So again, Lady Prudence rescued us, and I could not have seen a happier sight than a nice bed to lay down in for 3 whole hours, as Victoria says. So, like I said, I am a little slap happy, but I am just happy to be here. So, as always, I will ask the citizens if you have specific tarot requests or undertakings. I brought my deck. I also brought the Gummy Bear deck, which is fun. And I brought a great book that I wanted to point out to you today. Zolani says there are worse airports than Charlotte. Yes, for sure. I was surprised how many people were there, given that it was after midnight. I mean, thousands of people. They perhaps were going to give us a hotel room, but there were over 150 people in line waiting to get to ask for help. By the time we made it from the end of the line to the front of the line, it would have been time to get on our next flight at home anyway. Yeah, it was crazy town. Yeah, I'm very confused. Anyway, I came home and slept for 2 hours, and then Paulo didn't even do that. He came home and immediately went to the garden because, of course, it had been raining here like crazy, and we didn't know. So our tomatoes were actually exploding on the vine. So he came and he picked hundreds of cherry tomatoes, and what he's doing right now is processing them and turning them into something delicious. Gummy bears bouncing here and there and everywhere. Folks who know me know that I do love to use the Gummy Bear Tarot. It is a Rider-Waite Pamela Coleman Smith spoof, as it were, but it is a great tool for teaching somebody traditional tarot imagery with none of the menace of a real tarot deck. Sometimes folks find them a little scary. You can't be scared of this deck because it is literally gummy bears. I don't know if you can see. Yes, it is the traditional deck drawn with gummy bears. So I'm open to your questions today. I wanted to share with you this book. I have not had a chance to read it at much length. It was a gift to me from our oft times Metatron Carmel, and it's pretty incredible. It is called The Library of Esoterica Tarot. So I can't see much there, but this book, if you're a person who's interested in books, this is a big commitment to having a book. It's a real, you could prop, really prop the end of the table up with this one. But it is a beautiful, beautiful volume. It is possible she gave it to me, not only because she loves me, but also because She travels so much that she doesn't want to have a huge library either. But what this book covers essentially is a bit of a history, a brief history of the tarot. In fact, it says the sacred and the arcane. Sorry, it's so, maybe you can see it better where you are. And then it is rife with incredible color illustrations. There are, of course, it's probably not an exaggeration to say that there are thousands of different tarot decks. For many generations, there really weren't. There were just a few because printing, of course, wasn't convenient. And if you go back, hello, friends, Nina Leahy. If you go back, more than 150 years, you're really going to find just a handful of decks. But as I have mentioned before in my streaming, due to the joys of mass printing, and then more recently due to the joys of self-publishing, there are literally tarot decks for, perhaps it could be said, every special interest. Do you like sushi? I'm sure there's a tarot deck for that. Do you like Frank Frazetta? Like Frazetta style illustration? There's a tarot deck for that. Do you like James Bond or baseball or Hello Kitty? There's a tarot deck for that. So this book offers an incredible assortment of cards, some of which you may know. This, of course, is that is the traditional star card from the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And then for something completely different, you have often heard me mention the Mother Peace Tarot and the Daughters of the Moon Tarot. The Daughters of the Moon is one of the round decks that came out of the, I want to say, 1960s era exploration of trying to make tarot less binary and less gendered. So Sis has an Alice in Wonderland deck. Ooh, you did say that, Nina Lee. There's all kinds of great art in here, as well as writings. Man, I wish that you could see what I'm seeing. This one might be from this is the Postmodern Tarot. So the Pomo Tarot, I'm sorry, it takes a second for it to see the Lover's card. There's a real fusion there. It's a Postmodern Tarot. The question is, are there really two people? Is it, or more? Is it really just one? So the Pomo Tarot, which was made by Brian Williams, who is a very well-known tarot personality. Postmodern, the Pomo Tarot, the suits are guns, cash, bottles, and televisions. So very cheeky. So yeah, I wish that you could see everything I can see, because this is an education. But I will try to pick some other images to share with you in weeks to come. Again, the Library of Esoterica Tarot. And it's, I think it was Victoria said, this book is a door stopper. You could definitely slow somebody down with it too. And if you had something you needed to hide in your house, this would be a good thick book to do one of those little scoops. So, but let's talk about tarot. And then I want to talk about my witchy adventures in Cornwall. Maybe we'll go back and forth. Some of you perhaps saw in our social media stuff that we were in Cornwall for the last, I don't know, forever. I don't even know what day it is. 2 weeks, maybe. Cornwall, of course, is one of the Celtic nations that was subsumed by the great blob of empire that is Great Britain. So if you think of Great Britain as sort of a long, they say it's a stocking. If you think of it as a long sock and Scotland's on the top, that Cornwall is the toe of the stocking. And they say it's the toe of the Christmas stocking because that's where all the nuts go. It's a little country that is truly amazing. I've never had the chance to go there before. There's 500,000 people, 500,000 people. They had their own language and their own culture that was completely distinct from English culture before being subsumed. Cornwall had, again, it had its own Celtic language, had a ton of tin that they had been mining there for their own purposes for a long time. And of course, they got eaten up by the empire that wanted all of their tin. So it's been very much a working country for tin, mining, fishing, pretty amazing. So they're unlikely to have their independence from England anytime soon. I know we all hear about how Scotland is working towards that, and Wales just finally got its own parliament as another Celtic country subsumed by them. I heard when I was there that Cornwall does have 4 members of, I want to say, is it parliament? They're representatives to the English government. They were recently elected, and they took their vows in the Cornish language as sort of a form of asserting their independence as a people inside England. So that's really cool. And just maybe 15 years ago, the Cornish language was considered extinct, and there's now 400 or 500 people there who speak it fluently, and you see it on signs and stuff. So I think it's really awesome that they're working to bring their country back, their language back, their culture back. They, of course, invented the pasty, which is distinct from pasties, which was a running joke the entire event, because, of course, between the food and the pasties from the burlesque world, we had many a humorous moment. So it was a really great trip, and we were there to visit Cornish witches and travel with folklorists and witches from this country. So I learned a lot, saw a lot of stone circles, and amazing waterways. Thank you. As Victoria says, hooray for unruining the things that England ruined. Yeah, I gotta say, it's kind of a constant theme over there, is just how can you unwind, acknowledge that things are changed. We're all changed by our contacts. There's no cultural purity per se. The Cornwall will never go back to being culturally distinct from England in the way it would have been hundreds of years ago before media and so forth. But the fact that they can enjoy the benefits of being part of a big empire and also still be allowed to embrace and perpetuate their own culture, I think that's really important. I mean, isn't the sort of homogenization of culture one of our biggest complaints about America? Every place you go, it's Walmart. Every mall looks the same. It's the same 50 stores and the same 10 albums playing. And, so it was really cool to be someplace that was culturally distinct. So loved it. Also, wild ponies. The witches led us up onto the moor, and we headed up this hill, and there was wild ponies. And the wild ponies just stood there while they gave us a lecture on the history of the landscape. The ponies were completely unfazed. It was astonishing. Anyway, tarot stuff. So let's talk about cards. Is there anybody here with me today who doesn't already know the basics? What do I need to do a quick review of the suits, of the names, of the history? Just shout that out in the chat so I have a sense of where we want to go with it. America, every unique city in each state, yes, is like all the other unique cities. And I will say that's one of the problems with Airbnb too. We use Airbnb sometimes on our tours because sometimes that is literally the best fit. But I am acutely aware, I'm so much more conscious now of not over supporting that, because it is wrecking things like New Orleans, where it's New Orleans was culturally very distinct from the rest of the US. And now, it's being homogenized by Airbnb and stuff like that. So I try to be very conscious. Hello, Hesper. Did I say that right? Okay. On the subject of the tarot, we meant to do lots of tarot on the tour, but there was so much else going on that we didn't get to do a lot of it. So I'm going to play with these little guys right here. And my new deck, instead of cups, it has potions. Instead of swords, it has needles. Is that the Jack Skellington one, or is that a different one? Because that seems pretty cool. Okay, most tarot decks, a traditional deck is usually 78 cards. It usually has 5 different suits. 4 of them are directly analogous to what we have in a modern playing deck because those 2 kinds of decks are they are cousins. They are very close. And the 5th suit in the tarot deck is, of course, the one that makes it into the movies. That's the Death card and the Lover's card and the Star, as is being referred to by Blondie. Oh, Zero the dog is the star. That's so cute. I saw a great burlesque piece where somebody was doing poi as Sally from that movie, and her poi was actually Zero, so he was flying around her like on a. It was really adorable. It was like a brilliant use of a prop. So I'm going to pull a few cards, and right now I invite you to, everybody who's watching, I invite you to pick a number. I want you to pick the number 1, 2, or 3. Hold that in your mind. I'm going to pull 3 little piles of cards. We're just going to translate them, interpret them for fun. And the one that you pick now is the deck, the reading that will be for you. Now, this is just off the cuff and for fun. Oh, please let me know if I'm loud enough too, because I've been fiddling with my mic. Okay. When I'm reading cards, I usually try to get myself grounded, literally envision that my heels are connecting down through the earth, through a building, through a skyscraper, on a cruise ship even. You just imagine your energy going down into the water and grounding into the seafloor. Shuffle those cards. I'm just going to pull some cards for fun. Thank you, Blondie. I'm perfect. In volume. This first one is, let's pull 3 cards over here. I got to volunteer. I'm going to pull 3 cards for my people who pick number 1. This is just a little bit of what do we all need to know right now. All right. This next pile is for my number 2 people. So if you are thinking of the number 2, these are going to be the cards we're pulling for you. And the question right now is just really, what do you need to know right now? What is useful for my number 2 people? All right. And now, if you are a person who's thinking of the number 3, number 3. So practically perfect in every way. Oh, bless you. All right. So we're going to go through these, and I'm going to show you these cards, and we'll talk about what they mean. In this case, I actually have some cards that came up as reversals, which is a subject that usually comes up when I'm teaching or reading for people. Reversal of a card, meaning the card is upside down, does not mean the opposite of what the card is. Love does not become hate. Rather, a thing is usually delayed or obstructed. So, for example, if this was the card of, this is the job that I really wanted and I applied for and they said yes, but it's not happening right now. When it's reversed, that delay is, COVID, or you're held up in an airport, or there are interstitial steps that are making it take longer than you would want. So reversals typically are blockages or delay. That being said, number 1, no blockages, no delays. It's a very high-powered reading. So if you are the person who picked the number 1, in the number 1, we have 3 cards. Hold these images in your mind if you're a tarot person. We have the 9 of Cups, typically a person seated in front of an enormous array of chalices that are overflowing. We also have the High Priestess, which card leapt out and begged to be read first off, and also the Empress. So this is a whole lot of happy bears. Here's the High Priestess. Sorry, I'm trying to find my best angle. So it is basically, we see the black column, the sort of the ebony and ivory columns. We see a gummy bear dressed in the traditional lunar headdress. You see here the Empress Is that better? Trying to figure out where to hold it for you. We see there a figure seated on a throne. They're holding a scepter. They have a big crown on their head. There's water flowing. It's very juicy. As the high priestess is clearly like insulated and in her temple of cool colors, the empress is outside and it's all very lush. And then we have the 9. How about that? What is the least blown out way to show you? Nope. You sort of see it best at an angle, ironically. And there you can see a seated figure with a big floppy red hat. So these 3 cards are all very powerful. The Empress card is the card that speaks of the voluptuous life, the comfortable life. The Empress does not hesitate to eat dessert first or have Prosecco for breakfast. They are in touch with their abundant creativity. They are nurturing to the people around them in their quality of generosity of spirit and sort of self-acceptance, I would say. There's a real voluptuary quality to the Empress, the way that I interpret it. Now, because she appears also with the High Priestess, it's really sort of like the perfect, hey, Kara, you made it in time. You missed the part where I rambled on for about 15 minutes about our trip to Cornwall and the witches and the ponies and the Merlin's cave and stuff like that. But now we're pulling some cards. So Kara, since you just got here, pick the numbers 1, 2, or 3, because I have laid out some cards to do a reading for folks. We are currently doing number 1. The High Priestess represents the internal life. She's very much the listening to your dreams, listening to your intuition, really sort of following your own drummer, making time and space for a personal life. Oh yeah, why don't everybody go ahead and put your number in the chat, and that way I'll know who picked which one. Good call, Kara. I'm making this up as I go along. The High Priestess is very much about the sort of internal life, the personal monastery of the soul, whereas the Empress in this context is, again, very much like out there living life, you know, by the pool in a gold lame bikini eating tiramisu or whatever. Very much a voluptuous thing. And then the 9 of Cups is very much the card, cups being emotion, being how we feel in ourselves and how we emotionally connect with others. The 9 of Cups is about your cup runneth over and you are able to share. So when I look at these 3 together, really it's like suggests best beach vacation vibes ever. Or, you know, if you're not at liberty to, you know, to leave wherever you are, at least making sure that you take time for self-care, making sure that you allow yourself some pleasures of the day, and that you are also taking time to listen to yourself internally. If you are a dreamer, keep a journal. If you are a magic user, maybe you really think about doing some deep work. And that 9 of Cups is really about being emotionally fulfilled enough that you're in a position to be generous with other people. So if any of you picked a 1, good for you, because these cards are very relaxed. Let's jump on over to number 2. Number 2 is Wands and Pentacles. One of the things that we look for when we lay a bunch of cards down is you look for relationships between the cards. If you lay out cards and you get three cards with 3 different suits, it's as if you are seeing a sort of scattershot view, like a quick review of all of the aspects of your life. In this case, because there are multiple pentacles, that's a thing you want to make a notice of. Gulp. Pentacles. So we've got the Page of Wands. Picture a gummy bear holding a staff, because that's how we do. We have the 9 of Pentacles, which is traditionally a person, femme presenting person, or a gummy bear presenting person in this case, in a garden full of fruiting pentacles, usually with some kind of falcon it occurs to me now I should find out what kind of falcon it is, because there's lots with a little hooded falcon on their hand. So that is the 9 of Pentacles. And then we have the 4 of Pentacles, which is a figure typically sort of clutching their pentacles on a seat. There's a quality of sort of being closed up. And that card is reversed. Kara says, I want to be a gummy bear presenting person. I hope that in the course of our chat today that the death card comes up and I can show you, because if you've never seen it, the death card can be a little, unsettling if you're not into that kind of imagery, but there's nothing creepier than a gummy bear with teeth. So you don't want to be that gummy bear presenting person. Or maybe you do. Okay, so we have a Page of Wands. The pages describe ourselves in sort of a beginning or exploratory phase, and the wands describe our creativity, our willpower. Really, it's our capacity to manifest. So the page is out here with a to-do list of things to learn and do, and they are fully in touch with the fact that it's a new undertaking. It's a new skill set or a new way of looking at the world. Literally this image, they're like holding up this stick and they're looking at it like, golly, I wonder what I can use this tool for. This is the epiphany of the tool using mammal and or confection. So we see here our little page. Boop. For anyone who's just arriving and wondering why we have these kooky juvenile cards, I do have my deck here with me as well, but I was just in a gummy bear kind of mood. So Page of Wands. Wow, perhaps I can learn things and make choices and manifest my life the way I want. I wonder how I'll do that. These are the questions he's asking. Then we have the 2 Pentacles cards, our 9 of Pentacles. When you see the 9 in the tarot, that is kind of, it is as if the card is being presented with maximum exclamation points. So the 9 says, you think you like pentacles? How about all of the pentacles? Pentacles represent health and wealth. They are financial stability, resources. So when you have the 9, again, just as we had the 9 of Cups for our people who picked number 1, for the people who picked number 2, the 9 of Pentacles describes an abundance of material and emotional security. So we see here is our person. You are hard pressed to tell here, but yeah, see, they've got a little raptor with a little hood perched on their arm. Their stubby little legs. I think it's very humorous that the female presenting gummy bears, they gave them gummy breasts, whereas the males don't. Like they're like Barbie dolls, Barbie gummies. So in the 9 of Pentacles, you're describing essentially material abundance. This person is in their garden and they are enjoying themselves. They're very much at their ease. Then we see the 4 of Pentacles. The 4, stable like a table, right? 4 describes a moment of stability, but the artwork in this is traditionally drawn a little bit, the bear almost looks a little paranoid. It's like they went from being having enough to being afraid. And so we see in this art, this quality that it's potentially a little static. And given that the card is in reverse, again, which implies blockage and so forth, there's this quality of maybe you've got a great idea moving, you're exploring new skills with your Page of Wands. This 9 of Pentacles describes the potential for abundance and generosity and stability. But maybe this 4 of Pentacles reverse suggests that you may have either some part of your plan may be slow to manifest and call for you to exert some reserve, or it may be that your new project and your abundance, as described by the Page of Wands and the 9 of Pentacles, that you might be carrying some damage from when you did not have never-ending abundance. So here we see it's like everything about it's very square. He's sort of clutching his resources to him. He's got some pinned down under his feet. Pardon me. So for my number 2 folks, it seems to me like Again, plenty of forward movement. Excuse me. All the cards look good, but that card speaks to some sort of like obstruction or delay. If you have questions about any of these things, let me know. If you have a deck, I know some of you may just be listening. Some of you may be listening and watching. Some of you may actually have a deck that you're sort of playing along with. And so if that's the case, I invite you to get these cards out, because the art on yours may allow you to make additional associations. Because if you don't have this deck, while this deck is very traditional in symbols, every artist makes the choice to interpret that historic information in different ways. So get your deck out and look. What's happening in there? You know, those female gummy bears really are bouncing here, there, and everywhere. Is that like a quote from a gummy bear song or something? Like the bouncing thing? Nerds? Are they nerds? I feel like everyone knows things I don't know. Fill me in. I want to be cool. I want to know the TikTok dance. Okay, so we've got those. Now, for my number 3, folks, let me know. More Pentacles and the Star, as referenced previously. Oh, this will be fun. Oh, the Gummiverse cartoon. Thank you. Never saw that. And then, of course, the 6 of Cups. But before I interpret this, because the Star comes up, I'm going to pop into my little esoteric book here and see if I can find that star art to show you. And then you'll be able to see the relationship between the Pamela Coleman Smith version that I showed you a few minutes ago, blonde lady, and then the gummy bear version. But of course, it was the very first one to jump out at me before. Dove Estrella. Let me see, that is what, number 17? Justice. There's the moon. La Luna. Oh man, there's so much good artwork in here. The sun. Okay. Nerds. Nerds. Okay. Thank you. Bring me the star. Star, classic opportunity for people to draw naked ladies. Okay, so here we see the image as drawn by Pamela Coleman Smith. She was a renowned sort of Celtic revival fantasy artist of her time. You notice the posture of the person's legs. They are usually pouring one vase onto the land and one back into the water with a series of stars over their head. So mine does not really look like that, because I always found that particular image a little bit static. But you can see here in the gummy bear version, very similar. Just this person doesn't really have legs in the same way. So we see our little bear. I wonder how this artist decided when to make it a red gummy bear or a green gummy bear or what. We see here the same figure pouring the water out on the land as well. So in number 3, we see the star. The star card is the card that is the traditional card of healing, inspiration. It is a card of benediction. The imagery of pouring the water onto the land as well as back into the water. You can go all kinds of any which ways with that. But for my interpretation, I'm going to say that when the star card comes up for you, it is usually saying, you're doing great. It is a card of thumbs up-edness. Again, an inspiration and perhaps connecting with your source, perhaps connecting with your community, being comfortable in yourself. No, oh Lord, I hope the star is not reversed. No, the star being a card of healing and inspiration in this case is definitely not reversed. Our only reversal so far were the 4 of Pentacles for our previous friends, and it'll be the Six of Cups for you folks in the 3. Okay, so the Star, inspiration, healing, benediction, connecting with source. Apparently it's a clothing optional card. Now the Six of Pentacles, again, if we take a moment to look at the meanings of the suits, Pentacles are generally about health and wealth. It's our material stuff. It's how much time we have to spend. It's how many hit points of health we have. Hit points, gold coins, some people like to say. 6 is a stable number. It's the extra stable table. My teacher used to say that 4s were stable, 5s were chaos. 6 is a return to stability, sort of next step, like the next level of evolution, before the suit ramps up to extreme punctuation with the 9 and 10. So the 6 of Pentacles traditionally is a person with a scale, and they are weighing out change. There appears to be perhaps a beggar or a supplicant. Somebody is saying, please, sir, more gruel. And then there's somebody else with a scale who is weighing it out and distributing resources. So when this card comes up, it is describing sometimes you're the person who is in need, and sometimes you are the person who is in a position to share. Its relationship to the Star, being with that card of inspiration and healing, it could go either way. Are you being made whole by giving of yourself, or are you being made whole by somebody else literally sharing with you? Let's find out. So the 6, there's the jet lag kicking in. We see the 6 again because, my friends, you also got another 6, which is the 6 of Cups. You have the 6 of Cups reversed. Cups, as we mentioned, is about how we feel. It is our emotional lives, our creativity and inspiration. Really, it's your feelings. Imagine that your body is the cup and the water is how you feel. It's really sort of your emotional health and relationships. So in 6, which is that card of the next level of stability or evolution, 6 of Cups, that sounds great. Emotional commitment, emotional connection, community. A traditional meaning of this card is the sanctuary of the familiar. It is literally a sort of fenced in courtyard. I believe some tarot scholars actually traced these exact buildings and towers that are depicted to an actual place that Pamela Coleman Smith was known to have stayed. The authors went there and went, wait, they actually matched the buildings up. So she was drawing from life. And then, of course, the gummy bear artist was drawing from her references to life. So we see here literally this sanctuary of the familiar. You're going to see 2 little bears in a courtyard. They appear to be giving each other presents of flowers and so forth. So it's a very cozy, homey, safe card. However, as mentioned earlier, this card is reversed. So there's that sense of blockage or delay. Since the rest of the suit for my friends over here in number 3, since the rest of the reading rather is pretty positive, you've got that 6 of Pentacles, which is abundance and the capacity to either the willingness and ability to either give or to receive. And then the Star card, which is about healing and inspiration and all that good stuff. And the fact there's 2 6s in this one reading is pretty funny. That reversal to me implies that while there's a lot going on for you that might be productive and connective, maybe it's a good time for you to think about how you got where you are, because that sanctuary of the familiar, that again is like a lot of times when that card comes up, it's literally, go find your friend from childhood, connect with your cousin, go take a walk in your favorite place. Like it's very much a call to feed your deep memories and nostalgia, but because there's a blockage here, it suggests, here's the Here's the actual. Here it is, not upside down. See the little bears and the little courtyard, but in this case, it's upside down. So there's this quality of like, maybe you need to feed the deep well of nostalgia, and it might just take a little while for you to be able to do it. So, and thank you very much, Victoria. Don't lose sleep for our sakes. It's true, I am, but I'm going to stay up until 9 because I need to get back on the American schedule. Because after this, we've got a week home, and then we need to jet off to Gen Con in Indianapolis, where we will be doing some shows. Both Paulo, I, and our good friend Sarah Joy, who's going to be working with us at the booth. We all have shows. Paulo's got juggling shows, and of course, we will be vending dice and spending a lot of time talking about destination D&D tours. So we've got, like I said, we've got like a week at home or so, and then we're headed off to Indianapolis. So I need very much to get on a sustainable schedule for people existing here in this time. Because for me right now, it's 2 a.m. It's 6 hours in the future, something like that. So I'm getting there. Had a little nap today, and thanks to Lady Prue, I had 3 hours of sleep last night. So, do you have any questions about tarot, friends, or do you just want to listen to me chat? Because if you want to listen to me chat, we can talk more about the cards themselves. We can talk about these spreads if you picked 1, 2, or 3 and you have a question. I can hear the booper booping in the kitchen. Or I can just talk to you more about some of the crazy stuff that we saw in Cornwall. You let me know. I'm going to take a second to really on. Pretty much got home and has show us Death Gummy. Yes, thank you. Death Gummy. Okay. The traditional image in the Pelicoleman Smith or Rider-Waite-Smith deck, the message of this card, particularly as was designed by A.E. Waite, which is the name when we say the Rider-Waite Tarot. He's the Waite. He's the guy. He wrote a book on the tarot that was, it was chillingly unwelcoming, I would say, to a person trying to learn to read cards. Not a great book, but it wasn't really intended for the wider public the way they are now. It was like intended for, initiates of whatever secret society he was into, as sort of a Catholic mystic, occultist, whatever. So he hired her to make this deck. He gave her very specific instructions in the illustration of all of the major arcana. Again, those are, the Lover's card, the Death card, the ones that always make it in the movies. She really winged it based on the definitions on the other ones, which is why this is such an important deck, because she's the first person to say, instead of a drawing of 9 pentacles, and you're supposed to know what that means, why don't I create an illustration of it? Which she did, and that really spawned in part, I think, why we had such an artistic revolution in the tarot in the century following her work. However, he designed the Death card pretty much to his specs, as I understand. So there's traditionally there's a white horse with the Grim Reaper riding through, and there's like decapitated kings, princes, and popes like bleeding out on the ground all around him. The intention, hello, Dandelion. Sup? Oh, yeah. Got some Cornwall, huh? I'm happy to talk about that. This card was intended to depict not only the end of a bad situation, but also, which is what it means for us now, basically. It's rarely the death of a person, but it is frequently the death of a circumstance. The art was intended to remind everyone, memento mori, death comes for everybody, and being the king or the pope or the whatever, there is no station in life that elevates you too high for death to come to you. So this is the gummy bear version of the traditional illustration. And this deck was made by, I think I would know, Dietmar Wittrich from US Games. So behold the horrible specter. Trying to get where you can see it. See his horrible little gummy bear face with the teeth. It will go slightly better into focus if I angle it that way. And see, there's little decapitated gummy popes and kings lying about on the ground. So, whoa. So if you want to work with younger people or people who are he is a scary gummy indeed. Yes. This is the gummy that if you eat, it does not necessarily make you feel better. It's like the hemlock gummy. But this is a great deck for helping folks learn about tarot who, maybe grew up with a cultural fear or anxiety around it, being told it was intrinsically problematic as compared to being what I know it to be, which is well-researched images on pieces of paper. So now you've seen your scary gummy, and hopefully everybody got their 1, 2, or 3 readings. Pretty much they were all pretty positive overall, but they pretty much all seem to come down to you're doing great. Enjoy your life. Don't forget to take care of what's happening on your inner life. And if you encounter some blockages, don't freak out because they are fleeting. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about Cornwall because I got another 13 minutes or so. So the context was called a Cornwall Ramble. Byron Ballard is a well-known Appalachian folklorist, as well as a Wiccan priestess. She is very much my elder. I don't know how old she is, but she has been writing books as long as, like, when I was a baby witch, she was already writing books. Oh, BLC Blondie, please take care of yourself. I know you're going back to school. Oh, you're going to have your hands full. We will all be pulling for you. I hope that we still get to see you here in the stream when you get back to work. So Byron, when I was a kid, by which I mean, in my 20s, I was living in Asheville, and there was an article in the newspaper about there had been a bit of scandal because there's a pauper cemetery. When people who don't have money or don't have people to claim their bodies turn up, they still need to be put somewhere. And so most places have what we would now call a pauper cemetery. The place where, like, unmarked graves in the cemetery. So we have a big, beautiful historic cemetery near our house in Asheville called the Montford Cemetery. It was a big, beautiful park, basically. And there was an area that was the unmarked grave part. And it had come out that the cemetery or the city had asked the, interfaith community of pastors and priests and whatever, if anybody was willing to do religious rites for these poor dead people who literally had no one but the undertaker to show up for them. As a kid, I was astonished to find out that was even still a thing. It was. And one member of the interfaith community was willing to do that for them, and that was Byron Ballard, the witch. And so she had just been quietly doing, like, non-denominational rites of passing for these poor dead people and for quite some time. And when of course it was in North Carolina. So, when the conservative Christian folks found out that a witch was doing the funerals for these dead people, they freaked out about it. And it's like, well, where were you? It could have been you, but you didn't want to show up for no money. So shut the hell up. So Byron had been quietly showing up to serve these people in her community. And so that's how I found out that she existed. Now, fast forward 30 years, she's been writing books and traveling back and forth to the Celtic homeland. She does Scots, Irish, Appalachian folklore. Like, she'll look into folk ways, for example, stuff that she learned from her granny, and then go back to the old country and figure out where it came from and document it, all that kind of stuff. So, living history of the Appalachian people. And from that, I would say that she's also, priestesses and does priestessy type stuff and organizes in her community. She is invited to speak at lots of conferences nationally, pagan festivals, author things. The Unitarian Church has her come in and do sermons at times and stuff. So she's a whole situation of well-spoken, hard-fought knowledge, both about her heritage as a Scots-Irish Appalachian person from out in the hills, and as a witch who, came up during the 60s and continues to serve in that capacity. So Byron's written a lot of books, and her fans wanted to, I will show you again, Victoria. I'll show it to you again. Her fans wanted to go somewhere with her. Her fans, it's really more fair to say her friends, her students, the folks that are part of her practice wanted to go see mythic places that had meaning to her and learn from her in person, because they see her at conventions, they buy and read her books. She does a lot of, through COVID, she ran a lot of rituals online and so forth for folks that were trapped in their homes. So she would do like full moon stuff and things like that. So Paulo and I ran logistics, and he drove a van full of people all around Cornwall, including in London. Very impressive. Dungeon Master really does have to know how to do everything. So we did logistics for this tour, and essentially Byron said where she wanted to be and brought her people, and we brought them place to place. So for Victoria, once again, here's the death gummy. I'm sorry, it's hard to get a good, if I get far enough away that you can really see it, it gets kind of a glare. But you can see here's the dead, the bleeding out kings and popes, and here's our little Grim Reaper with his scary little mouthful of teeth. Yikes, teeths, right? I know, teeths. Crazy. It's the hemlock gummy. So we went where, and also on our agenda was, we went to Cornwall, which is it is the furthest most west, I guess I would say, part of the island that has England and Scotland on it. It is largely rural. We went to one city that was so busy we literally could not park a car, which is St. Ives. I do not recommend trying to drive there. We drove around for a while and then decided to keep going to a more accessible town. There's one big city, which is Penzance, as in the Pirates of. And it turns out that for a long time, the people of Cornwall, because they were disenfranchised and they were taken over by the English, they were poor. And a whole region became pirates. And interestingly, they were land pirates, because what they would do, now, of course, not every person in Cornwall was doing this. However, it is a well-documented thing that this happened there. They would wander the coast at night with lanterns, and it would disorient ships at sea because they thought they were tracking a lighthouse. They would crash on the rocks and die, and the people would then go get all over their stuff. And they basically foundered their ships and took their stuff and sold it, and had a big whole black market smuggler land pirate thing. So huge chunk of history. I had no idea. So you can look up the Jamaica Inn if you'd like to see a little bit more about that, which we went to. Beautiful building, very interesting. Yeah. So we went to a whole bunch of sacred sites. There are apparently over 2,500 megalithic sites in Cornwall, which for a very small country is amazing. Every place there happens to be a pullover on the side of the road. Apparently it's really actually just a place where you can park and strike off through the brambles until you find a stone circle. So Byron took us to a number of her favorites, including Menna Toll. Menna Toll is a stone circle that has, not only is it a stone circle, but there's literally a big circular stone in the middle, a round stone stood up like a mill wheel with a hole in it. And people do weddings there. Like couples will put their hands through it. Paulo and I smooched through it. They will hand a baby through it a number of times as part of like a baptism on the land. Witches do their initiations there. And when we were there were like some German tourists eating lunch. We were very amused. Everybody decided to crawl through it. So that was an adventure on a wet day. So again, the hole is probably this big. I have no idea how it, I don't know how they accomplished it, because I think they said that this thing was 5,000 years old. It wasn't like made out of stones. It was bored out through the middle of one big piece. Menna Toll, it's called. So we went there. That was really great. And this is a lot of slipping and sliding through a mix of well-groomed paths, because there are clearly a lot of people who care. A lot of these are now, scheduled monuments, historic sites. that are maintained, but also, they're out in the countryside. So you're just striking off through brambles and nettles and mud. It was very adventurous. So yes, BLC Blondie, I highly recommend. I just make sure you bring, I'm not a big one for Wellingtons, which are rubber boots, but you definitely want waterproof shoes and long sleeves because it's a pokey country. No big predators though, thanks probably to the Romans, probably killed them all off. The biggest predators there now are humans, really. You don't want to like accidentally wander into a field with a surprised bull in it or anything, but mostly it's just sheep, rabbits, and so many kinds of bird. So lots of stone circles. We went to, hopefully I'm going to pronounce this right, Dawsmary. Dawsmary Pool is where the Lady of the Lake, it's just a lake in the, like you pull off and there's this lake surrounded by green fields with sheep. There's one little stone house on it over there, the Dawsmary Farm. It is where the Lady of the Lake presented the sword and then took the sword back, the sword Excalibur. So we went and enjoyed that. And of course, was King Arthur real? A lot of the sites that we met, the thing is that it's not about whether King Arthur was a real person or whether these events really happened. The mythology of them permeates the land to the extent to which it shapes not only modern tourism, where you're like, whoa, this whole town is committed to the Arthurian myth or whatever. I mean, Glastonbury's, not far from there. But it is the reason that they assumed that mythic mantle even 500 years ago in their region is because it meant something to them. The way that, if you're in Sicily, there's the sort of Charlemanic myths are a huge part of the folk culture, the way that Arthurian myths are a huge part of English culture. And if you are a Monty Python fan, it's very hard to keep it together and not just make Monty Python jokes the whole time. But so the Lady of the Lake, we went there. We also went to Tintagel, which is where King Arthur was allegedly conceived when Merlin brought up, used magic to help his mother, Igraine, and Uther, who was not her husband, collide and create King Arthur. That happened there at Tintagel. And so we went there. And if you go down the side of the cliff to the underneath, Merlin's cave is there. And it's on a beach. It's a giant cave where the Cornish Sea has pounded a passageway through the cliff. And when the sea pulls out, you can walk inside. Very cool. Enjoyed that so much. And I will say that if you've read a lot of sort of fantasy, science fiction type of stuff, you've always heard Merlin's cave, the crystal cave where he was, that's where he's supposed to be trapped, or hibernating, depending on the version of the myth, until King Arthur comes back, the once and future king. You always hear about it as the crystal cave. Well, it's actually a crystal cave. Like it's a big granite cave, but the granite there has big wide seams of white quartz that run through it, and it runs through it this way. So clearly the land probably was like this and then over time shifted, So there really are big bands of white crystal through it. Pretty awesome. So Merlin's cave, I know, right, Zalani? It was about 1,000 steps to get down there from the top of Tintagel. And if you want to go Google it up right now, look at Tintagel Castle. It's just there's an island basically there that is connected by a, sand at the bottom, and they've built a spiffy little bridge. It was some, Dark Age chieftain's fortress or whatever that has somebody somewhere along the way, Geoffrey of Monmouth, I think, decided that this was Tintagel. And, but you can see the footers of all of the buildings and everything, but it's, as Eddie Izzard said, it's a series of small walls. And we stayed in this crazy hotel, the Camelot Hotel. The hotel itself is beautiful, but I was like, what is going on here? It had this like interesting vibe. Turns out it was that the beautiful hotel that overlooks the ruins, it's run by Scientologists. So that was, and I was there with a group of witches who were doing witchcraft, in the folkloric sense. So that was very funny. I was like caught between cults and time periods. Uh, I love that castle, and I'm so jealous you got to see it. Yes, I was thinking that some of you folks would have really have enjoyed that aspect. And we had some excellent food in that little town too. Tintagel's actually a little town. Like it's it's got some cute little witchy shops, and it's got a pub and little hardware store. Like it's clearly a tourist town that makes a lot of its money dealing with the King Arthur stuff, but it's also a beautiful beachside town. And then it is also a place where just some people are just trying to live their lives. So Tintagel was cool. Of course, Sir David Percival. I mean, my Twitch handle comes from Arthurian mythology. Of course. Oh, it had this big table. Haha. The Crazy Hotel had this big round table. And it was made to look very medieval. It was divided into quadrants and in beautiful medieval-esque lettering. It had the names of all of the knights, so you could go sit at the table and decide who you wanted to be. So I was thinking of you, actually. So we were there at Tintagel. We saw the Lady of the Lakes place. We saw Merlin's Cave. We went to a number of standing stones. We saw wild ponies, as I mentioned at the beginning of this stream. Oh, and then we went to we shifted digs and moved over towards Penzance, a town called Marazion. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. Marazion. Beautiful place. And we had a place right on the water and dropped straight down to the beach. And there's you've probably seen this thing, Michael's Mount. It is an island that was the castle of a family that is connected to the mainland by a road several hours a day. and then the waves close over the road and it's 6 feet underwater. So if you want to go out there and visit, and they have a beautiful garden and everything, you either need to stand on the dock and wait for the boat, which you would see people. Some folks would go out to work in the morning, standing there waiting for the boat to pick them up. Or some days they'd just be standing there on the road waiting for the waves to part ever so slowly so that they could walk to work. It was really incredible. So we were there for, I don't know, maybe 3 days. We got to see, we were there long enough to enjoy the natural cycle of the water rising and falling. And it was the full moon, so there was big tides. Sally says she was never able to go. Oh, Victoria, you would have loved it. There's a great ghost movie that had a road like that in England. Wonder if it's the same place. Maybe. I mean, I have been told that there is one in Paris or one in France too, which I have never been to, so I wasn't aware of it. Mont Saint-Michel, Montmartre. I don't know. Not my area of expertise. I didn't know. I mean, it's a full road. It's amazing because they had to build a road on the sea floor. So as we were walking across it, it's wide enough to drive vehicles across because sometimes, of course, they need to supply food. And there's a whole industry out there. It is still up there. The family still has a private home inside the castle, kind of like Muncaster, where, they live there some of the time, but it's also, museum and the gardens are on display and there's all this other stuff happening. So the idea that somebody had to wait for the tide to go out, build some of a road, and then you'd have to stop. The tide comes in, everything's underwater for 12 hours. You wait for the tide to go out. Just the logistics of trying to build that road that goes all the way out there, extraordinary. This movie takes place in England. I mean, technically Cornwall is a country trapped inside England. So for all I know, like Mont Saint-Michel, is that what it is? I don't know. I mean, I wasn't aware. I've been to Paris and stuff. I was a kid. I was in France. So if that other one is in France, I'm quite humbled by the fact I don't know anything about it. But yeah, it was really cool. I can't even describe how fortunate I felt to be there. And at the last day, we ended up with a lot of leftover food because Paulo made a giant Italian dinner for everybody, and he overestimated how much everyone would eat. So I was throwing handfuls of pasta out for the seagulls and the crows. It was pretty hilarious. What else did we do? And then he and I went, we drove everyone off to the airport after doing, and we met some witches. That was the other thing. So we had a group of witchy ladies with us of the modern variety. Yes, he cooked an Italian meal with tons of stuff. And then we met, so Byron, of course, is an esteemed folklorist and people come to her with their stuff. There are people like her functioning in Cornwall that are integral to their communities. People come to them with their health problems. They come to them with their fertility problems. They come to them with their personal problems, whether they're of a metaphysical nature or a physical nature. And so we had the pleasure of meeting with some of those folks, and Cassandra and Letitia. And they were good enough to spend some time sharing their experiences as people who are still integrated into their parent countries, unlike all of us who, as woo-woo people, are functioning inside a fusion culture and inside the internet. So it was really great to learn from them and hear a bit about their lives in a small village in Cornwall. Okay, there's an island in northern England that's the same way. The road out to it is underwater when the tide is in, and if you're with a tour group and don't make it back in time for your ride, you're stuck there for the night. There isn't any sort of accommodation. The natives have seen hapless tourists, have seen they're over it and aren't sympathetic. Right. Well, this place, they're definitely like, you have to get off the island by such and such a time, or you can pay to take a boat. Like there is a boat that will run you back and forth because they're not opposed to having people. The thing about the tides, of course, is they don't come the same time every day because they're functioning in harmony with the relationship between the sun and the moon and the gravitational pull and everything. So you have to look ahead and find out when you're going to be walking and when you're going to be boating and when you need to get off the island, because the museum and all the things close down after a certain point. So, where the place just goes dark. And I suppose it's probably just security and, the family in their apartment if they're on the island. So there's a point when they're like, everybody needs to be gone. But the rest of the time, and it being Cornwall in the summer, I mean, there are some people swimming. There are people paddleboarding and windsurfing and boating. But because it's England in July, they're also wearing, bodysuits, like surf suits. Only the very brave are out there swimming in just plain old bathing suits. I'm from the North Atlantic and I waded in up to my ankles at Merlin's Cave and was like, I feel no desire to submerge my body in this, even though this is a mythic place. I'm just happy to stand here up to my ankles in seaweed. So we did all of the things. Spent time with those lovely witches who were nice enough to bring us to some of their special places and take time with us. And then when it was time to return, Paulo drove everybody off to their locations, and he and I drove off to London and spent some time in Little Venice, and which is a pretty little neighborhood right near Paddington Station. It's canals and narrow boats and stuff like that. And then we got caught up in the 35-hour journey to get home again because of all the flight stuff. So I had my tarot deck with me the whole time. But I have to say, once we got on the ride of just trying to get home, it's almost at that point, like, you don't want to know the future. You just, you assume there will be one, and you just keep trying to just keep swimming, just keep waiting around the airport, hoping for good news. So my deck traveled all the way there and back, but I did not actually use it on this trip, which is atypical for me because I always keep one with me. Paddington Bear. Yeah, that's right. Paddington was there. Paddington Station. Did you know Paddington Bear is from Peru? Apparently everyone in England knows that. I didn't know that. And there's like a movie all about him going back to Peru to meet his family or something. The things you learn hanging around London. Yeah, Peru. I don't know why. Maybe that's why he feels the need to wear a hat, even though he's a bear, because he's from a different climate and ended up in London. We were very near Kensington Gardens, where I remember going there when the kids were little, because there's a great statue of a Peter Pan, but we did not make it over there on this go around. We opted to explore the little Venice area and do all that stuff instead. So that, I guess we did some tarot today and talked about Cornwall and checked in with the community. Any other questions or anything for me before I sign off and work on getting reacclimated to the Eastern time zone? I will do this again at the end of the next month, last Thursday of the month. Apparently, we've settled on 8 p.m. as the time, and I would love to be able to do a bit more of a tarot deep dive with you. I feel like we're just picking our way around and figuring out how you guys would like to use this time. Thank you for the wishes for the happy chill. Thank you for the wishes for the well-earned rest. I'm very pleased to say that we got back and, the plants, the animals, everybody survived our absence just fine. It was great. Paulo is going to Warmmerf. Does WMRF, does that mean the Washington event? I'm just guessing that that's what that is. I will not be there for that one, unfortunately. But if it goes well, then maybe, if it becomes part of his regular routine, then I will definitely go out there. Washington Midsummer. Yep. No, I won't make it to that one. Our kids have end of the summer plans that I need to help negotiate. But thank you, Victoria. I would love to meet you in person. And thank you, everybody, for your well wishes as far as getting rest and everything goes. We had a great trip. I am honored to have gotten to go someplace and learn something new and, learn a whole new part of the country. I can't believe I've never been to Cornwall before. It's like, I only know it it's famous from archaeological point of view. I'm honored to have gotten to spend time with those very knowledgeable ladies. And I'm just happy to be home. I'm good. Where I can brush my teeth with a new toothbrush and have some laundry and pet my cats. It's like being given the gift of all of your favorite things. And they're your favorite things because you already own them. You came back and go, oh, it's my books. Oh, I love these books. Oh, I forgot I own this deck. Oh, look at this cat. It's so cute. Everything here is exactly what I want. Oh, yeah, it's my actual house. I just haven't been here in a while. I hope to see you too in August, Sally. I guess I'm going to duck out to now, everybody. And I thank you all so much for coming. And I hope that this is what you needed. And I appreciate you bearing with me in my jet lag. And I will see everybody soon. Oh, right. This is the part where I don't know how to boop this part. Let me see. I will see everybody now because I'm going to continue to try to find the outro. Okay. Love you. Bye.
Still ever